Welcome to the STS Annual Business Meeting. The meeting will begin momentarily.
Great, Beth, I think we'll go ahead and start. It's 9:02 a.m. This is Vina Tharani. Welcome to the Southern Thoracic Surgical Association 2020 Virtual Annual Business Meeting. First of all, just a couple of housekeeping items. There is a chat icon at the bottom, and please use that. We'll be monitoring that throughout. Gaurav Alawadi is going to help us monitor that, answer questions, and bring that to the group. Please keep your cell phones on mute and also keep your computer on mute unless you're actively speaking. Next slide. So maybe back one. Great. So the first thing I want to do is just acknowledge our council members. This is a very important group of people that really help lead the Southern Thoracic in the right pathway, I believe. This is Jeffrey Jacobs, the council chair and the immediate past president. Kevin Akala, who is the past council chair. Dan Miller, who's the first vice president and also the president-elect. Shanda Blackman, the secretary treasurer. Scott Lemaire is the CME director. Constantine Mavroudis is the historian. Dr. Brett Reese is a counselor at large, as is Jim Gangemi, and also Daniela Milena. So really a lot of credit to this council that's been able to guide the Southern Thoracic through a very relatively tumultuous year that we've all have been witness to. Next slide. So there has been a revised bylaws which has been posted and it has been endorsed. There were a couple of major revisions. As you can see, you can access it through that website, but there are a couple of major revisions that we did want to just point out to you that were voted on and approved by the membership. The past chair and the second vice president positions were added to the leadership structure. And also the current leadership will remain in positions until at least November 2021, which will be the Southern Thoracic meeting for next year. The pre-candidate membership category has been eliminated and the language updated to include virtual meetings, which we obviously had to do relatively quickly in base to the previous meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago and also this meeting. And the maximum number of days for notice of meetings has been extended to 60 days. Again, if you want to see all of the bylaws changes, please just go directly to that website link. So just for everybody to understand, the leadership has remained intact, and so we will continue with the same leadership that we've had for this past year. Therefore, Shanda Blackman will now give her report for the Secretary Treasurer. Shanda?
Thank you, Vino. I'd like to welcome everyone to the STSA business meeting, and I'll bring your attention to the next slide. The minutes from the annual business meeting are available online at www.stsa.org. I hope that you've all had a chance to review these because I would like for someone to please call for a motion to accept the minutes of the 2019 annual business meeting.
So moved.
Second.
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 Discussion. We'll now do a virtual vote by Zoom poll. We need at least 50 members to vote during this activity. Please click on the box that has appeared as yay, nay, or abstain. In a few moments, you'll have approximately 15 seconds to cast your vote. And then we'll show you the poll results. The panelists will not be able to vote.
Glad you said that, Shanda. I'm sitting here clicking on it the whole time.
We previously voted. They can count those if they do count. So we have 100%, 52 members voting yay. The motion is passed. The next slide will be our membership category. If you look at the distribution of membership, you can see we have 691 active members, 373 senior members, and 62 candidate members, 19 pre-candidate members, 14 associate members, and 8 honorary members. There are for the year 2020, there are new applicants of a total of 31 for active membership, 18 for candidate membership, 5 for pre-candidate, and 2 for associate. Next slide, please. Further, looking at this by distribution and percentage, you can see that 59% of our membership is comprised of active members, 32% senior members, 5% candidate members, and 1.6% pre-candidate, which is the category that was just by the new bylaws that just recently passed, a category that's going away, 1.2% associate membership, and 0.7% honorary membership. Next slide, please. With regards to our financial history, over the years in this graph dating back to 2015, you can see the operating income has increased to $900,000, while operating expenses have risen at a slower rate, thanks to staff, and staying below $700,000. Next slide. Our net assets remain stable at over 2.5 million from 2019. Next slide. Our investment portfolio became slightly more aggressive, thank you to the financial committee that has now been led by Mark Slaughter. And as of 10/30/20, we are at 2,426,162 with a variance of 245,000 compared to the previous year. Next slide. Regarding the budget, as expected, 2020 revenue was much lower than the previous year, secondary to the COVID-19 pandemic, at 627,303, mostly membership dues, and a net loss of 140,000. This is primarily due to the fact that we did not have an annual meeting this year. Next slide. Transitioning over to an update on the Thoracic Surgery Foundation and away from merely the STSA, I would like to recognize the team led by Dr. Bavaria to show you that the TSF has remained strong as the total awards dispersed continue to rise year by year, reaching an all-time high of over $1 million this past year in awards that were given out. I would like to thank the TSF board, especially Priscilla Kennedy, for all of the work that they have done to make this accomplishment happen. Next slide, please. The STSA Research Awards are listed in this slide. You can see the Virginia Commonwealth University, Johns Hopkins University, University of Michigan, Stanford University, and Emory University were all very well represented by their mentees that were given the TSF Southern Thoracic Surgical Association Research Award. These are all of the people that have received it through the past. If you would like to go to stsa.org, you can even see videos and testimonials from some of these recipients talking about how it's changed their lives. Next slide. I'd also like to give a notation of the still possibility of this year's donation to the Thoracic Surgery Foundation. Donations are tax deductible. 100% of your donation is matched by the Society of Thoracic Surgeons, and 100% of your donation is attributed to the fund, meaning that you are not covering overhead or administrative cost. You can merely go online to www.thoracicsurgeryfoundation.org, donate, or you could donate by phone. And thank you to all of the members who have already donated to the Thoracic Surgery Foundation. It's one of my favorite areas to donate money to make sure that our future remains bright. Thank you.
Shanda, there's a quick question in the chat, if you don't mind addressing. Why were the
yeah, sure.
expenses over 700,000 in 2020 when we did not have an annual meeting? I think this is pertaining to the STSA. So
right, we can go through,
imagine...
if that person wants details, we can go through. We did have a webinar. We have continued to administer membership and review different investment portfolios. I think there was a combination of factors that led to the fact that we had expenses at 700,000. We had actually budgeted to spend more money getting another person to work for our group for administrative support, but because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we elected not to do that and deferred it to a more productive year. Therefore, the expenses can be detailed further. If anyone wants more details, please email me and I'm happy to share that with you. But for
Yeah,
the
John,
sake of time,
in addition to that, John, we also had our staff, but also, we gave TSF money that year that's being diverted for other years. And so there were still some expenses. We would have been much higher than that had we had the meeting. So that's
Right.
relatively in line with what we expected.
right, and the staff and administrative fees were still the same with the COVID pandemic. The staff and administrative fees were not greater.
So thank you, Shanda, for an excellent report. And also, both Shanda and I serve on the Thoracic Surgery Foundation board. We believe that this is especially the STSA award is very well accepted by TSF, and is something that we should, as members of the Southern, we should really think very heavily about trying to support the TSF as much as we can. So Shanda, thank you again for both of those reports.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite Jeff Jacobs, who is the council chair and the immediate past president, to give us an update on the committee chairs.
Well, thank you, Vino. And before I start, I'd just like to quickly congratulate Beth, Laura, and Rachel and our STSA team for their tremendous leadership and support during these challenging times. And I'd also like to congratulate you as our president for leading us during these challenging times. It's been a tough year, and certainly our thoughts are with anybody who is impacted by COVID. It's notable that the Southern has taken a different approach to the leadership transition in comparison to some other organizations and preserved our leadership for the next year. This will allow Vino to give his presidential address in person. And I think that this approach that we've taken is consistent with the unique culture that we have within the Southern, and that's why we've taken this different approach. And with that, I'd like to transition to our committee reports. And our first committee report will be the program committee report. The program committee was chaired ably by both Harold Burkhart and Arenia, and I'll turn it over to Arenia to present the program committee report.
Thank you, Jeff. Next slide, please. On behalf of Dr. Burkhart and myself, would like to thank the entire STSA program committee, Dr. Jacob Thurani, Miller, Lemay, Blackmon, Badwar, St. Louis, Nelson, and Nguyen for the leadership and the great help. Last month, STSA held our first webinar, which actually was a tremendous success. And currently, STSA is providing a recording of this webinar. The same group of people, they'll be in place for the next year's meeting, which will happen in person or virtually. So I would like to thank all of you, and we're looking forward to seeing you either in person or in a virtual platform. And we're looking forward to providing you with more and more exciting educational opportunities. Thank all of you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Arenia, and also to Harold for your tremendous leadership. And we look forward to seeing what the program will bring next year when hopefully we're all together in the same room. Now we'd like to go to the postgraduate committee report from Gaurav Alwadi and Todd Rosengard.
Yeah, this is Gaurav. First of all, also thank you to the STSA leadership and staff for putting this together and their hard work during this time. Here you see the postgraduate committee. Want to thank everybody for their time. We had put together what I think was a very nice plan for the year before the meeting was canceled, and we look forward to any ideas that you have. If you could share them with me or with Vino. One of the topics we had was related to COVID. We had some really hot topics related to TAVR, SAVR, and covered kind of all three bases of adult, congenital, and general thoracic. So we welcome any ideas and look forward to the meeting this coming year.
Well, thank you very much. And we also look forward to the postgraduate course next year as well. Thanks for your leadership. Our next committee report will be the scholarship committee, which has been led by Dr. Min Kim. This is an exciting committee that does very important work, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Kim.
Next slide. Good morning. I'd like to thank the members of the Scholarship Committee listed here for helping to administer the Brooks Scholarship. Next slide. For those people who do not know, Dr. James W. Brooks was 23rd president of the STSA and the lifetime supporter of the association. He was a great mentor to countless residents and students during his career at the Medical College of Virginia. In his honor, STSA created a Brooks Medical Student Scholarship in 2010 and Brooks Resident Scholarship in 2014. Since the creation of the scholarship, STSA has awarded 24 medical student scholarships and 15 resident scholarships. Recipients' benefit includes attendance at the STSA annual meeting and being paired with STSA member mentor. Next slide. Here are the winners for the 2020 STSA Brooks Scholarship. We awarded 4 medical student scholarship with 2 finalists and 4 general surgery resident scholarship with 1 finalist. Congratulations to the recipients. Next slide. The Brooks Scholarship is entirely funded by the members. And here are the ways that you can donate to the scholarship. I will send an email to the members with this information, along with a video from Dr. Caitlin Harrington. She was a recipient of the Brooks Medical Student Scholarship, and she'll explain the impact of the award on her career. Please view her video and donate to support the future of our profession. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim. This is a very important part of the Southern, this Brooks Scholarship, bringing in new members, new future heart surgeons, and looking out, like you said, for the future of our profession. We'd now like to transition to the Membership Committee report, which will be presented by my good friend, Dr. Jay Ganjemi.
Thanks, Jeff. This year, our membership committee included myself, Drs. Curtis Bryan, Brent Keeling, and Hugh Van Gelder, and I'd like to thank them for their help this year. We had a great group of applications this year for membership to the STSA. The following slides that we're going to roll through are going to include pre-candidate applicants, candidate applicants, associate member applicants, and active member applicants by state. So we'll go ahead and roll through those now. We had a total of 56 applicants in total this year, which I think was probably the highest we've had in a long time. And that's a.
And Jay, as this is going through, we encourage the other people on the call, if you see one of your partners not on, please reach out to us and try to get them on board. We know that the board, ABTS, didn't have their board, so some people are being left behind a little bit, but we encourage everybody to join and reach out to either Jay or myself or Jeff.
And at this point, I'd like to call for a motion to accept the proposed new members.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. So at this point, we will have 15 seconds to cast our votes.
And the panelists can now vote as well.
And the motion has passed with 100% yes. Thank you very much.
And thank you for your leadership, Dr. Ganjemi. We'll now move to the historian report by past president, Professor Mavridis.
Thank you. It's my solemn duty to present the necrology report for the past year. Would you please go to the next slide? I will read them in succession. Dr. Francis Alessi from New Orleans. Dr. Harvey W. Bender Jr. from Nashville, Tennessee, a past president of the Southern Thoracic in 1990. Dr. Fred N. Cole Jr. of Baltimore, Maryland. Dr. George R. Dykoff of St. Petersburg, Florida. Dr. Dykoff has one of the awards named after him. Dr. William H. Edwards of Nashville, Tennessee. Dr. George C. Kaiser of Webster Groves, Missouri, past president of the Southern Thoracic Surgical Association. Dr. Henry G. Kelly Jr., MD. Sorry, Dr. Henry K. Jr. from Greenville, South Carolina. Dr. William S. Lyons of Alexandria, Virginia. Please, next slide. Dr. Lawrence S. McGee, Jr. of Mobile, Alabama. Dr. Lawrence J. Pass of Nashville, Tennessee. Dr. John M. Pittman, Jr. of Williamsburg, Virginia. Dr. Francis Robachek of Charlotte, North Carolina, also a past president of the Southern Thoracic Surgical Association. Dr. David E. Tribble of Columbia, South Carolina. Dr. Tribble is survived by his two sons, Reed and Kurt Tribble, both of whom are members of the Southern Thoracic Surgical Association. I suspect I will never see this ever again. Dr. J. Peter Thiele of Dallas, Texas. Dr. Walter G. Wolf of Hillsborough, North Carolina. Please join me for a moment of silence in memoriam of these past members of the Southern Thoracic Surgical Association. Amen. That concludes my report, Mr. President and Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for the opportunity to serve in this capacity, and I look forward to many, many years ensemble.
Thank you, Professor Mavridis. We'll now move on to the Annals of Thoracic Surgery report from our editor, Dr. Patterson.
Thank you, Jeff, and to the membership for the opportunity to present this report. It's been a very challenging year for the Annals because of the pandemic. I wanted to just take a moment to thank the terrific editorial staff who have been working at home from the beginning of March through the present time. It's a challenging business to run a large journal with people working at home. They deserve a lot of credit. Can I have the next slide, please? And the next slide. You will see that in the bottom right corner of this table, as of September 30th, we'd received nearly 4,000 manuscripts. We're now well over 4,000 and may reach 5,000, which would be about a 40% increase over usual submissions. Very challenging to handle such a large volume of submissions, all I'm certain due to people's relative inactivity during the pandemic. Next slide. This describes the acceptance rates for meeting papers, which run around 60% on average. And as you see in the bottom table, the STSA papers are running at about that rate for previous years, and we anticipate that it's been good to see as many STSA papers from this current year, papers submitted despite the meeting being canceled. So that's particularly good for the organization. Next slide, please. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Tom Varghese, who runs the digital platform of the Annals, and particularly the work he's done on the Beyond the Abstract podcast, which have been very popular, over 15,000 total downloads, and a really exciting part of our program. And that concludes my report, Dr. Jacobs.
Thank you very much, Dr. Patterson, for your tremendous leadership, especially during this really tough year. And with that, Dr. Thurani and I would like to call up the chair of the nominating committee, past president, Dr. A.J. Carpenter, for the report of the nominating committee.
Thank you, Dr. Jacobs. In keeping with the change to the bylaws that Dr. Thorani described earlier, the nominating committee met last month to nominate only one new officer, which is the second vice president. I will say it was probably the shortest nominating committee in my tenure on the committee, as we all arrived of one single mind. The surgeon we have selected to nominate is truly a Southerner, having done all their education in states represented in the STSA, such as Texas, Maryland, and Virginia. This surgeon has attended every meeting for the last 20 years, presented many papers, and been a frequent discussant. Unanimously, we have selected a son of, I'm sure, Southern Taiwan, and I offer to you the Poet Laureate of the Southern Thoracic Surgical Association, Dr. Stephen Yang.
Well done.
Nominated
Well done.
for second vice president.
Well done. Bravo.
AJ,
Request any further nominations, and if none are heard, then I request a motion to accept Dr. Yang as the second vice president of the Southern Thoracic.
So
Motion
moved.
to accept Dr. Yang.
that's
So
great.
moved.
Congratulations, Steve. Do we have Steve somewhere? I don't
We
see
have
him.
to vote.
Oh, yes.
Have a vote.
We have to vote.
Okay. Everybody, please use your icon, and all panelists are allowed to vote. Panelists and attendees are allowed to vote. Steve, congratulations. I wish we were there to see you in person for this. And just to tell everybody now, overall, where the scheme is that there'll be the president, there'll be the first vice president, which is the president-elect, and there'll be a second vice president. And so those are the pathways for leadership to the presidency. This allows a nice succession across the board. So I think this is very nicely done. AJ, thank you so much. And AJ will be back next year as she'll remain the chair of the nominating committee for another year. So
Congratulations, Steve. And you've now been unanimously elected as second vice president of the Southern Thoracic. Congratulations. Well deserved.
Steve, are you out there somewhere? You want to come off mute and say something?
Oh,
I don't hear him.
he might not be able to if he's
Yeah,
an
if he's just an
attendee, though.
attendee. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. So I think we have about 1 minute left, so we stay on time. Maybe I'll make some closing remarks. First of all, I and the entire Southern family want to thank our STSA powerhouse staff of Beth, Laura, and Rachel. They're truly, I think, the Charlie's Angels of the cardiothoracic surgical world. And after all, we are just following their lead, and we can only, it's really hard in words to put how much they mean to the Southern. They, I think, define the Southern as well as anybody ever can. And so really, without the three of them, we are completely lost. So really a huge thank you from the Southern family to the three of you. We really appreciate all the hard work that you put in, especially this year, since it's been very hard to get in and out of the office, and you've taken a lot of time from your personal time to be able to do this. So thank you very much. On a personal note, during this holiday season, I'd like to make some closing remarks. And most of those who know me as a person know that I believe that the world and the glass is always more than half full. And I believe that there's good intention in everybody. So during this time of uncertainty, it remains important that we as surgeons, and more importantly as human beings, should strive to set an example of just absolutely exemplary care for our patients and each other, including our nurses, our APPs, and our staff. I'm positive we will prevail if we continue to keep true to this mission at hand. Please be kind to others, but also take care of yourself. I think that's really important during this time period. Take time for your family and your friends. And as I have to remind myself, or as you saw, Connor reminds me all the time, take some time to smell the roses and minimize strife in your life. Happy holidays to our entire Southern family, and thank you so much for joining this morning. Thank you.
Well said.
Well done, Vino, and thank you, everybody. This completes the business meeting.
Well
Thank you,
said.
everybody.
Well
Thank
said,
you.
well said. Vino, well said.
Thank you.